Yeah, I think that's really it. And normally that's. But I should know that, yeah, there is. Oh. Right.
The meeting has not started. We are just getting everything set up for those in Zoom. Okay. Thank you, Don, for that positive feedback. Okay, so let's, yeah. And for the recording, let's do. So we're going to pin that so that will be the featured recording. The audio from anyone who's Are we waiting for more people? I just. Are we missing on number of people or not? Like,
we actually have.
And you know, the whole library. Yeah. Yes.
See it a little after 9 o'clock if we want to get ready to get started. I think it'll be a long meeting, so. I'll call the meeting to order with the first order of business. Will be approving the minutes from August 18th of 22.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes from August.
Second.
August, yeah.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we'll have the comments from the public related to items on the agenda. And this will be your only time to speak for the public, so try to keep it to 2 minutes. We're gonna have a long meeting today, so if you could, whoever wants to go first. Rachel?
Oh, sure. Supervisor Rachel Dowling, 642 Pierce Street in Menasha. Just came to answer questions if you had questions about the DAC on the agenda.
There are two hands raised in the Zoom. So if there's anybody else.
We're just librarians. So
Right, making sure. Okay, so the first hand that is raised in Zoom is Don Nussbaum.
Go ahead, Don.
On this bomb, 665
Just
Dartmouth
pause,
Drive.
Don. We have to adjust our speakers. Supervisor Nussbaum, could you just give us a test?
Don Nussbaum, 665 Dartmouth Drive, Neenah, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
My comments are on the dissolving the DEI. I think diversity is a wonderful thing. I think equity is a wonderful thing and inclusion. But I think the way that we're using it is the way the Marxists came up with it. I voted for this originally when it came. I thought we could maybe make it turn it into something good, but I was wrong. I tried to get on the committee, but Mark Harris wouldn't let me on the committee. This DEI has its origins from Marxists. And if anybody doesn't know this, I suggest you go and research where it came from. And for the people that know that the Marxists created this, well, I think you got to research what happened to socialist and communist countries. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
District 26, I believe Connolly.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate your time. I am speaking or wanting to address the possible dissolution of the committee. I have a couple of concerns about it going forward. I have heard that there are speakers that want to address the public through the committee, and they have withdrawn because of the current county rules in that it's recorded and they don't want their personal story shared. Because it's under the county umbrella, that's the way that it needs to happen. A private organization might be very different, but under the county umbrella, that's just the way the rules are. What is more concerning to me even over that is something that I addressed even before this current committee is sitting there and it was being voted on. And that's a friend and colleague of mine, business owner here in Winnebago County, that expressed interest in joining. I don't know if it was exactly this organization or something else in Winnebago County. And she was told she's not Black enough. I really wish I knew what that meant. I don't think she knows what that meant. That is certainly not diversity. That is not equity. That is not inclusion. I guess in summation, I really think that at the county level under this umbrella, that we not go forward with this committee. And I just close with a statement by Martin Luther King Jr., where he says, cowardice asked the question, is it safe? Expediency asked the question, is it politic? Vanity asked the question, is it popular? But conscience asked the question, is it right? And there comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but one must take it because one's conscience tells you that it is right. I urge this committee to not go forward with the committee, and I thank you for your time.
There are no other Zoom hands raised, so I believe there would be at least one more call for anybody in Zoom to do public comment before we move forward.
Is there anybody else in Zoom that wishes to speak?
No one has raised a hand or unmuted.
Seeing none, we'll close that portion of the meeting. Next, we'll go to the safety share with Tom Orchard.
Does Rachel get to talk?
She said she didn't want to.
Oh, I'm just here to answer questions.
Oh,
She was
Is
the
that
first person
okay?
I asked.
okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Real quick, safety share is where we take time to talk about things that might be impacting us in today's world. In fact, I sit in front of my house and watch the world go by. And one of the things that I've noticed is that electric bicycles cause
Electric what?
bicycles. There. And what happens with those is they go faster than regular bikes. And if you'll notice, just the road going out here onto this highway, coming out of this parking lot, you've got bushes coming right up to the side. And if you are on that bike trail with a bike that's moving along at a good clip, and I don't know how fast they go, but I know they go relatively fast. And bicycles in today's world are not staying, following the traffic patterns, not staying out in the road lane, they're getting on the trails. It becomes an opportunity for bikes to hit cars. I did not have a chance to check with the police departments. My guess is the bicycle accidents have probably gone up a little bit this year just because of that. When I sit in my house, I can hear some of the bikes coming down because they got these great big tires on and they're kind of humming. I can't tell which way they're coming from because of the hearing aids, but I can tell they're there. So as we get dark out, we get into daylight savings time, let's remember to watch out for those little kids because it never seems to fail that we're in a hurry and something will happen. So that's pretty much all I have unless anybody has anything else.
Moving on would be the chair report. I'd just like to, seeing we have some people here, the 4-H is selling their pizzas and you probably could get a form at the extension window. I buy about 10 every year. They're excellent pizzas, $7. Get your order in before they're gone. Next, we'll go to the Winfox System Annual Report.
Yes, thank you. There's some new faces on this committee, so I thought we could kind of introduce ourselves. Then I will go through the funding request is going to be in the 2023 budget, and then the libraries will tell you some of the activities that have been happening at their libraries in the past year. My name is Claire Ellen Summersmith. I am the Assistant Director of the Winnefox Library System. Winnefox Library System is a organization supported by state funding that helps the individual locally controlled libraries work together with shared resources and shared services. And one of my roles here specifically is that funding request, and we'll be going through that. So,
I'm Brian Kopetsky. I'm the director of the Elisha D. Smith Public Library in Winnebago.
Rob, the director of the Needham Public Library.
I'm Jeff Gilderson-Dewey. I'm the director of the Oshkosh Public Library. I'm also the director of the Winnefox Library System.
I'm Amanda O'Neill. I am the director of the Winnebago Public Library.
I'm Julie Stubby, director of Carter Memorial Library.
And so you each got this white packet, which is far less interesting than the yellow packet. So we're going to start with this and we'll be quick. In the past, prior to the new executive office coming on board, the libraries have met with this committee in the summer with a budget request that is then supported by this committee through the budget process. These numbers have already been presented to the county executive earlier this summer. He was interested in seeing them before this committee. And they are currently in the county executive's budget. So I'll also go through it, and we would love for this committee to continue to be advocates for libraries on the full county board. But I just wanted to give you that context, which is different than it has been in the past. So the way that funding works, can you remind me who is aware of the way that library county funding works at all or not? Is anyone on the committee?
Yeah. Just go ahead and explain.
Yeah.
You do have new people on this committee.
Okay.
Who have not been here before, so.
Okay. So the way that works is that the state requires that counties reimburse individual libraries for their usage of rural residents. Rural residents are defined as people who live in townships or villages that do not currently support a library. So if you live in the town of Black Creek, did I pick one that's actually in this county?
Black Wolf.
Black Wolf, okay. If you live in Black Wolf and you visit the Oshkosh Public Library, those circulations are, Oshkosh is eligible to get reimbursement from the county for those circulations. And that's true of any, so we have representatives from the municipality of Menasha, Neenah, Oshkosh, Village of Winneconne, and the city of Amro. And if you live not in one of those areas, you're counted as a rural resident. And so if you look on the bottom of page 1, we have calculated a home municipality circulation for last year, and then a Winnebago rural resident circulation for last year. Again, we're using numbers from 2021 to get funding in 2023 because again, it's a reimbursement for services already rendered. So, and you can see then we have this percentage. So for Menasha Public Library, of all the circulation that went to Winnebago County residents in 2021, 25% of those circulations went to rural residents. And that's broken down for each individual library, as you can see in that graph. And then we take the total funding that a library receives from Winnebago County area municipalities or counties, et cetera. So that's the net library budget. The net library budget is made up of the funding that an individual receives from Winnebago County and from their own local municipality in 2022. That net library budget gets that percentage from the previous page, gets applied to the net library budget, and that becomes the operational ask for the libraries in 2023. So again, we're going to go to Menasha because they're at the top of the graph, and that's just easier. They saw 25% of their CERT from Winnebago County were in rural residents. You apply 25% to their funding that they received from Winnebago County and the municipality of Menasha, and that is their $412,967 request.
Is that in addition to the $1,645,000?
That is what, that $1 million, that is what Menasha received in operating budget from the city of Menasha and from Winnebago County for 2022.
Okay.
And then the $412,000 is what Menasha Public Library is asking for from Winnebago County for operational budgets in 2023.
So it is in addition to.
It's
Kinda.
It's a new year.
It's a new year. So
Okay.
that's what he'll be receiving next year versus what he received this year. Yes. So,
Okay.
so you can see that the libraries also get some funding from outside of their municipalities and from Winnebago County. That's not included here. So the net library budget is not their total operating budget for a given year, but it's very close. Because the other funding is minuscule in percentage comparison. Then, so in the next graph, you can just see where libraries have gone up and down between their operational requests in 2022 versus 2023. Menasha had a 4% increase in it, and Amro had a 12% decrease, and that's just an extreme. But the reason why you see these fluctuations is because circulation changes. And so if an individual library was seeing a lot of circulation from their municipality, from the city that the city that the library is in versus the rural residents, they're going to ask for less funding. It really is, this is a way for libraries to get funding based on services they have done, circulation they have seen, people they have seen. It is not predicting the way that most budgets are, where we think we will spend this money. It's very much, we spent this money. This is how much it costs us to serve these residents. Please reimburse us for these services. And so it's totally tied to what patrons decide to do, what individual people decide to do with their time. If they decide to go to a NENA library, then we would like that to go, reimbursement to go to the NENA library. So that's the levy operational request. One of the things that Winnebago County does really special is that they also have a major facilities report. So basically, if a municipality contributes to a capital project and takes out loans and financial support for that, just the municipality, not donations, not grants, etc., then the county reimburses that city over the course of 20 years. And so currently, the only library that is in that major facilities request is Menasha, because they had a building project in 2003. So they're almost to the end of that, and this is going back to the city of Menasha for their contribution to build a new library in 2003. So that's the end of page 2. Then there's one final portion of the total fund request that comes from these libraries, which is the special project request. This is just for the libraries to be able to do additional, not circulation-based activities. And so this year we're asking for $20,000, $10,000 of which will go to the Overdrive Advantage account. If you might be more familiar with the term Libby, which is the app, but it's the collection of ebooks and e-audiobooks that are available to all residents And funding for that, it takes a lot out of the library budget to help support that. And so we're asking for $10,000 from the county to help support that as a special project. And then another $10,000 that will be divided between each library individually. They will each get $2,000 to make additional, their library specific ebooks, e-audiobook purchases. Versus the $10,000, which will automatically go to the shared collection. That makes the total request, and then you can see the total request on the bottom of page 3. We have a 3.08% increase in operational requests. Again, this is entirely based on circulation. We saw that use increase. We have a small increase in the facilities request, and the special project request is the same as it has been in past years. And so our total ask is $69,000, about over what it was last year. Again, this is already in the county executive. It's been presented to him as well. But we want this committee to be in support of this ask and to be supportive of library budgets in that full budget cycle. And the last,
did you have what response did you have from the county executive when you presented these numbers to him?
Oh, he didn't show his cards. But eventually we received verbal assurance that he is going to support this ask. He could change his mind between now and when the question gets presented to all of you, but we hope not.
And then just for the last page, this is just for your interest, is I have a map, which all the green is all the rural residents in your county. And some of the services they receive from libraries that aren't just books. So.
I want to speak to that just for a second. That list of services, you know, we refer to circulation as the key for the reimbursement ask. And that's because we can track that very easily. But that bulleted list at the bottom of the map is the full range of services that people throughout the county receive at our libraries. That we can't count all of those. So there's a lot of intangible value that our county residents are getting at our libraries, in addition to the circulation of library materials. But that's what we can count. And that's where we hinge the request for reimbursement on circulation. But it's certainly not all that we do for the county's residents.
And you'll see some of that in our presentations and in our.
In this board section,
Mm-hmm.
is story time face-to-face in person? Is it recorded? What is it?
All of the above.
Yeah.
I think most of our libraries are back to doing in-person, in-building story times, but at least at Nina, we still do, they're still recorded, so for families.
So when you're recording them, are you recording them with someone by him or herself face-to-face? Is it over a phone? Is it over some sort of link? How do you?
It's Facebook or on YouTube.
It's a recorded video that people can watch anytime.
And then how do people access it?
Either through their Facebook or they can connect to the library's Facebook and view it that way, or go on YouTube. And those links would be on the library's website.
For over a year, and it could be moving on to close to 2 years, I've been talking to Sheriff John Watts about the possibility of having prisoners record stories that could then be downloaded. I don't know how that happens. Could be accessed with permission of the child's guardian, assuming that the person in charge of the children are okay with having interaction with the prisoner, so that mommy or daddy could be reading bedtime stories to kids. They're not set up at this point to do that. Is this something the library could do through some sort of Facebook or because I mean, even though they don't have the access, they don't have the IT infrastructure to get that going. Could the library record prisoners, store them, and they be accessible only by the guardian of the child, of that person's child? Is that a possibility at all? Or is that like way more expensive than
I think there are probably a lot of factors in there that would have that would need to be sorted out. It doesn't sound like something that the library would want to be the middleman for. But if the prison, it's a lovely idea, and I think it has a lot of merit for those children and the parents. If they could figure out a way to do that. It's
So
relatively
if prison staff
straightforward.
were to record
Yeah.
prisoners, could they be stored through the library?
Well, I think all you would need to do is just email it or create, I mean, it doesn't, storage, I think of video is freely available, more available than it has been.
I think you want to make sure that only the child
Right.
of that prisoner is accessing it. Also, you want to make sure that the guardian of that child is okay with that.
And I think that's where it would present some problems for us because our entire model is built on all of that information, all of the videos, everything we do, we want available to as much of the public as possible. So we don't really have the infrastructure in place to build in limiters for that. But, you know, just thinking about it again, is a very off the cuff answer, but certainly as part of a process, I can certainly see the libraries, my library in particular, we have equipment available to help facilitate. I don't think we could, you know, necessarily lead something like that, but we certainly have tools available.
Okay, well, that's a little piece I can present to the sheriff books. All right. I mean, I've been working on this for about 2 years. Eventually, I think it's gonna happen, and it's not gonna.
It's a great idea.
It is.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go back to the rest.
I mean, unless there's any other questions about the money part, I'm happy to turn it over to the libraries for them, for their show and tell, as we've been calling it. So. You want to kick us off, Brian?
Sure. So for the Elijah B. Smith from Menasha Public Library, we had 2021 was, and right into 2022, we had a lot of changes in our library. Thankfully, I don't know that we're ever going to come out of COVID, but at least we're getting a handle on how to deal with it. So we're doing more in-person programming again. In the past year, again, I took over the library in April of 2021, so I'm still relatively new, and we've been working at a pretty quick pace, making changes to the library. So the biggest change was putting in what we're dubbing our SmithWorks initiative. SmithWorks is, a lot of people look at it as just our makerspace, but it really is a lot more than that. It's kind of an ecosystem of learning. And the principle is we're building off of hands-on learning. So a lot of what public libraries have been in the past is very transactional, come in and get your stuff and then get out of here. And there's been pieces, we've been doing programming for years and years, but I think in people's minds, a lot of people think it's a place for me to come get stuff and go. And that model, in my opinion, is changing. So we're trying to build in the programming to have people come in and learn new things. And a lot of it is built off of STEM learning, but it's not just STEM learning. We do a ton of arts. We've got a monthly creative writing group that's actually working with a local publishing company to, the end goal is that we'll actually publish a book with all of our local authors in it, or at least all of the local authors that want to present something. All my little gewgaws here are things that we've, yes. And feel free to take something if you'd like. So all of the things being passed around are from our makerspace. What that space is intended for is to give our community members access to tools that they typically aren't going to have at home. So we've got multiple 3D printers, we've got a laser cutter, we've got some higher end computers. We've got a flight simulator, virtual reality, and most of those items were purchased for this initial offering. We purchased almost everything off of grants that the library received. So that's one of the models, is when we're trying to start something new, we try to find funding that's outside of tax levies and things like that. But again, this has become a core for us. So it's hands-on programming. We offer the books to DVDs and things that help with that. We've built our digital platform around the idea that, okay, I want to start learning how to do Photoshop. I can come into the library and use Photoshop, but I can also take a class on Photoshop using Yale courses. I can learn basics of Photoshop and Udemy, which is another tool that we offer. Again, we're trying to build an ecosystem around hands-on learning, and the overall idea is that people can pursue their interests, and we feel like a portion of those people are going to take those interests to that high level where they're going to develop it into a business, or at least utilize those tools that they've developed at the library for their career goals as well. So that's been what we've been working on for the past year. The other piece I should mention is that we are currently in the process of I guess I would call it a renovation survey. We don't have any answers at this point. We expect by the end of the year. We're working with EUA architects to take a look at, is our building serving the need? We're not looking to do a new building. We're probably looking at moving pieces within the building around. So again, we can better serve that more hands-on, more people in the building at any given time, versus again, that model where it's almost a transactional shopping experience. Come and get your stuff and get out. We want people hanging around with us. We want a lot of activity.
How do you publicize all of this? Because it's really cool. Forgive me, our libraries are amazing. They are such a gift.
They are. I absolutely agree. I think that if you look at the things that the libraries in Winnebago County in particular, but everywhere, but in Winnebago County, they're doing things so far above what typical libraries in their, within their size ranges do. And it's something to be really proud of. And hopefully, again, I'm not speaking for other people, but marketing is the thing we stress about, because needless to say, the local governments and the taxpayers don't want to see us spending $25,000 on a marketing campaign. I don't have that in my budget to do anything like that. So we do a lot of kind of guerrilla marketing. We use social media. We have our constant contact newsletter that we send out to our patrons. The problem is a lot of those things are predicated on that person already being familiar with us. So the ability to reach new patrons is really a challenge, and we do everything we can. We do outreach to various schools and institutions and organizations. But when it comes to like, can we place ads? Can we, work through, we try to get ourselves on TV as much as we can, but as media has fragmented over the years between, all of the online stuff, the TV stations don't have quite the reach they used to. Our local newspapers are pretty much decimated at this point. So it's really a challenge, but it also forces us to be creative. So there are some intangible benefits to being forced to think outside the box.
Can you speak a little bit about your friends groups and your foundations and how they can help support these kinds of events or advertising?
For Menasha, it's a work in progress. Our friends group had kind of fallen. We have a really great group of people who have come in and they volunteer to help us in the library. But as far as advocacy and funding, it is something that we're actually actively working on right at this moment, because it is such an important piece. Prior to coming to Menasha, and prior to going to, I came from McMillan and Wisconsin Rapids. At the Appleton Public Library, almost all of their programming was driven by the contributions of the Friends group. So I totally recognize what a help that can be, but in our particular case, it's something we need to work on.
My husband and I live right smack in the middle of you and Gretchen. Right smack.
Lucky you.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? Absolutely. And I know that in the past, there have been donations from the King's Daughters. If you go to the Community Foundation for a grant from them, from the Nina Menasha King's Daughters Group, you might find that there is some money available for you.
And our work with the Community Foundation is a big part of what covered the initial equipment that we used for the Smith Works.
This is so cool. This is so cool.
Did I miss the book sale this year in Manassas?
So the book sale, we have changed the model of the book sale. We're still talking about whether we want to or whether we're going to do a larger book sale. But over the course of COVID in particular, we weren't able to utilize the volunteers, and some of those volunteers have, when we reached out to them to do the book sale last year, they just said they're not comfortable for various reasons. I know in some cases with health reasons, some people just didn't have the time anymore. So a couple of factors there. We moved to an ongoing book sale. So behind the checkout desk, there's always books for sale. We're trying to kind of work that collection to make it of interest to people as they come in. The other factor is the book sale was basically a library inside the library that was built up over the course of the year for the sale. So we had 2 entire rooms that were completely filled with books for the book sale. Those 2 rooms are now our programming spaces for Smithworks. So that became our maker space, the storage rooms that used to be for the book sale.
So
We still have space for the book sale.
it's
We've got-
changing.
It is changing. It is changing.
And then my second thing would be is that I had the opportunity to use a digitizer at Manassas
Yes.
Library. It seems like it's getting a little bit old. How does one justify upgrading?
It depends on what particular digitizer you're referring to. We've got one that is built in to the microfilm reader, and that is a much more problematic question for us because the microfilm readers, especially the ones that have the capability to digitize, create PDFs and things like that, are insanely expensive. We're looking at, I think, $8,000 to $12,000 to replace it, and we just don't feel like right now we have enough use to justify that. If we're talking about like the flatbed scanner, those are things that we just need to know that it's not working, and I believe we've had a conversation, and in our next round of IT purchasing, we are planning to upgrade those.
It sounds to me like it could be with all the libraries. Your biggest issue is marketing.
Yes.
And you have to find some way to do it. I mean, I was able to check out a projector for our class reunion. We digitized all our photos in our yearbook and then we projected them at it. So I mean, you had it all there. It's just that people don't know about it. And to have a book sale going on all the time, people don't know that. Some of the people I know that work there said that they aren't doing it anymore. Well, they are doing it just in a different format. How do you get?
And everyone on the team should very well know that
Well,
that's how.
And this had to be volunteers that got on the team.
Right.
But
The best way that people come into the library for that kind is because individuals tell them to. I mean, and that's true of any kind of marketing business, is word of mouth is the most successful, right? I mean, I can hear ads on the radio 100 times a day, and that isn't necessarily going to use that business. But if Brian tells me he likes them, I'm like, oh, maybe I'll go check them out. So, I mean, if you had,
can help us.
yeah, if you had success with your digitization and that's such wonderful. And if you want to, I think having those stories come back to the libraries is so great because then they can market those stories and say it has been used. This is the testimony of this person.
yeah, the world is just changing. It ain't like it was 2 years ago. And the challenge we're all having is what do we do? How do we communicate it? We've got people that don't use computers yet, but yet the world is going towards it. So
You know, I assume that you've got a Facebook page and stuff like that. I mean, I know that we had a building for sale in Menasha and we couldn't get $25,000 for it and we relisted it I seen it on Facebook almost every time I went on there, and we got 157,000 for it. So it's just amazing when you get social media involved, how many more people that reaches, and, you know, if you got a new product and it's out there, people will see it and use it.
Yeah, we've got our particular Facebook platform has about 2,500 followers. Again, something we're actively trying to develop.
And also start up your Spanish Facebook, which is
Yes.
great too. They have a Facebook page for Menasha that all of the materials are in Spanish as well.
Oh, sorry, Katie.
Well, and this is addressing all of you. I'm sure that we've got an ELS group at the libraries, just because we need to have English for all of those people who are coming into our community. How does one go about donating tax-free money to you? Are you a 501c3? Does one donate to the foundations? How do you, and then actually specify how anyone wants to have that money utilized?
Hey, could you explain what ELS is?
English is a second language.
Oh, ESL.
Oh, excuse me, yes. Thank you. Thank you,
Can
Karen.
I speak to the language learning piece
Yes.
just very quickly, because you should be aware that Oshkosh Public Library is, and for 40 years has been, the host site for the Winnebago County, or they're the Winnebago Area Literacy Council. And the Literacy Council helps people find language learning resources. Some of it's tutoring, some of it's classes, but the Literacy Council is a key resource for folks who need to do English language learning. And donations, I mean, we're not 501c3, but we are tax exempt governmental entities. So people can donate to us if they prefer a 501c3, at least for Oshkosh Public Library, they can donate through the Oshkosh Area Community Foundation. There are funds that benefit the library at the Community Foundation, and one could get a tax advantage because of the Community Foundation's 501c3 status.
I think all of you guys have accounts.
And our friends group is the same way, and we have a donate button right on our website that takes them right to both accounts.
Does that answer, Kate? Or did you-
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Nina does not have community foundation, they're all community foundation. We have our own, we run our own trust funds, as you may remember, and the Friends organization, both active and we solicit donations, and they are both doing well, thankfully. All of our programming is funded by the Friends and the trust fund. We don't use any tax dollars for our programming, so it's very important to us to keep that
And
those
it's-
coffers where they are.
It's pretty significant, the amount that you do, and of course, one of my issues is that it appears that literacy is declining. I know that for me, it's critical to be able to read, it's critical to be able to look at numbers, it's important in living today. And as one looks at what's going on with how people are getting educated, that literacy rate is dropping. And it's fundamental in surviving these days.
Well, oh, I'm sorry.
For Jeff, what percentage of the population in our county is illiterate?
I don't have that number off the top of my head. I mean, past surveys have estimated literacy rates in the United States generally as high as 20%. But I'm not sure where we are right now. I'll go back and ask the Literacy Council director if he's got that number, but I don't have the current number for our county, I'm afraid. I'm sorry.
Well, and in an effort to support literacy and encourage literate community, we do a summer library program, as do all of our libraries. It's one of our most active times of the year. This year, we had a 90% increase in the number of kids who signed up for summer library program over last year, and 30% over pre-COVID numbers. So it's a significant increase in lots and lots of children are registering. Part of it is we have a really close collaboration with our school district, which helps a great deal. They promoted it, sent all the kids to the library, and that was the highest number we have ever seen at Nina. One of the prizes that they, or one of the offerings of the summer library program was this booklet where they could keep track of their hours. And it had stickers in there, stickers. They were able to keep track of all the books. There were little games in here. So this was an incentive for our summer library program. I also brought some show and tell today. We do some other things. Some of these are kits that we create for people to take with them or use in the library. We have them for all ages. We just started a new collection called Experience Kits, and it's to allow patrons, generally adults or high school kids, to try out a new hobby or a new craft, see if it's something they're interested in. These are just coming out now. The one I brought today is for weaving. So if someone wants to give weaving a try, see if it's something that they're interested in. We create a little kit with a couple of looms, books to read. They can learn how to do it, give it a try, and then bring it back. There are probably a dozen kits so far, but we're expanding that collection. There's calligraphy. I noticed that we even had a pasta maker. So if someone wants to give pasta making a try, just to give people an opportunity to explore something new. In our children's department, we have also kits for crafts and art projects. This is a plein air painting, which is painting that's done outside. It has watercolors, it has a little easel in there, paper. That one, this is one for planting seeds. So there are things in these kits that you can, that the patrons who check them out are able to just keep and return just the packet. So the things in there are for them to keep and use at home. This little monster was created after our Monster Mash story time. This is a sock filled with rice, so it's like a stress ball, but the kids are creating those after their story times. We have gone back to in-person story times. Tuesday was our first in-person since early 2020. So it's really nice to have kids back in the building again.
How many showed up?
We had 35 first.
Oh, wow.
So and it'll build from there. Once word gets out, we continue to do outdoor story times as much as possible. For those of you who don't know, the library is right next to a beautiful park in downtown. So we use that for quite a bit. My kid was there. What's ready? We also bring our story times out to local community parks and to recreate wild nature centers for a wild child story time. So there is, following the story, there is a nature walk. So we have some staff who are they're considered naturalists, but they are able to explain what people are seeing, what the kids are seeing in the parks. Just yesterday, I believe it was, the day before, they went to Riverside Park and took a tour following their story. And those will continue. We continue those throughout the winter whenever possible. Kids are bundled up and they go to the story times outside. So it's fun. It's fun for the kids. We're in Wisconsin. They're used to the cold weather, and we take advantage of that.
Do you have any mobile libraries?
We have a kind of a mobile library. We have a book bike. We call it the Bibliocycle. Our book bike made, I think, 50 trips this summer to parks. We go into low-income neighborhoods bringing books, and Y Camp. They register for a library card. You can check out materials. You can bring something that needs to be returned. Some of those people don't have ready access to transportation, so we bring it to them. Of course, we're limited. Our book bike, I believe we have one as well. We have a bike, and then there's a trailer, so we have we're pulling the bike, the books behind us. In July alone, we served 500 kids. So it's not an insignificant impact that we're making on the community with our book fund. We did, our friends funded the book bike, Friends of the Library. We did ask them for an electric bike because
It's hard to,
it's
it's hard to pedal a book bike.
it was hard to pedal, yeah. So, and I think that's all I have, unless you have any questions for me.
Well, I'll take up the story and I'm gonna, as your questions are eliciting, our responses, I hope you're getting the message that we are creative, we're innovative, we look for every way that we can get our message out, and we look for every way that we can to connect with our communities. And so from the Oshkosh Public Library end, I'll refer you to the pretty gold handout, but I want to emphasize that back in 2021, right in the middle of the pandemic, we did a strategic planning process, and we settled on our top strategic goal to be a community-driven library. And we made a major focus of our building is a huge asset. The library building is one of the tools that we can use to respond to the needs in the Oshkosh area community. And as we progressed through the pandemic and came out of it, we made a major focus using our building to help the community recover. So we aggressively pursue partnerships with agencies that help folks get their lives on track after the disruption of the pandemic. So some of the partnerships that we have going right now that I want to call out for you, major ones with the county itself. We have, along with some other libraries, got a federal grant in order to figure out how to respond to people with mental health needs, with homelessness needs, other needs that they bring into the library with them. And through that, we've been building our partnerships with the County Social Services Department, with the City of Oshkosh's Behavior Response Team, which you may have heard of Magic, the police dog, is part of that team, and a county employed social worker is also part of that team. So we've been holding a series of lunch and learn sessions with agencies that serve the needs of the public to better understand how the library staff can refer folks in need to those services. So we are partnering with the Day by Day Warming Shelter in Oshkosh, and not just, we send our staff to tour their facilities and understand their needs, but they're also doing outreach in the library 2 afternoons a week. That a staff person from the warming shelter is in the library and can touch base with some of the same clients that they have in the warming shelter who use the library as a shelter during the day. Also, we're partnering with Advocat, with the State Workforce Development, with State Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. All of those agencies have a presence in our building, either to meet with clients, because it's a stigma-free place. It's a public space where they can engage with their clients in a convenient public setting that's on the bus route. So it has a lot going for it as an asset to bring the community together. Also, I'll highlight that we restarted a partnership with the county clerk's office and court commissioner's office and the County Bar Association to offer free legal service consultations. And I think all 3 of our libraries, Needham, Menasha, and Oshkosh, are offering these free legal consultations with attorneys who are doing pro bono work that's required, under their participation in the Bar Association for people who need a little legal advice, and it's free. So our focus has been to help people through the pandemic and to respond and bounce back from the pandemic. During the winter months, we've added some new collections as well. We added a jigsaw puzzle collection. We added a board game collection for folks who are going to be kind of cooped up in the winter during isolation and quarantine. So I just wanted to highlight that. We can reflect many of the other themes that Brian and Gretchen have been talking about, and you can read more about some of that stuff in our handout, but I wanted to share with you that we have embraced that idea of being community driven and addressing community needs just wholeheartedly. We just really work hard to pursue that focus.
Did you mention the care cabinet? That's not what it's
Oh,
called.
no, I will mention that very briefly. On page 9 of your handout, there's a photograph of some of you will recognize this, an old card catalog. We repurposed an old oak card catalog in a partnership with the Day by Day Warming Shelter to create what we called our comfort cabinet, I think is what it's called. Yeah, the comfort cabinet. There are personal health needs, toothbrushes, combs, that people can, that's stocked by the warming shelter staff. And if you're interested in donating to support this, that can be done through the Day by Day Warming Shelter. And then they keep it restocked so that people who have either they're homeless or just have an economic need that they can't afford these things, they can just take what they need from that cabinet.
Can I jump back in?
Yeah.
I forgot about one collaboration that we are really proud of. We partner with the school district on a number of things, but we provide lunches during the summer months. School lunches to kids ages 18 and younger. While summer school is in session, the library provides the greatest number of lunches to the community of any site in Neenah. We serve about 100 lunches a day. So they deliver the lunches, the Chartwell's delivers the lunches, and we have volunteers, including the mayor, the police department, the fire department. They come and they bring their truck. Our alder persons, board members, volunteers, teenagers, they all come and help serve lunches, clean up. But 100 kids a day get lunches. We don't know, there's no need-based, it's just come in, ask for lunch, get a lunch. Chartwell's, which is the school district's food supplier.
And the school is paying for
The school pays for it upfront, and then they are reimbursed by, I believe, the U.S. Department of Agriculture. So the library's commitment is to have the site and set up with the volunteers and staff.
I'm going to hand off to our dynamic smaller community librarians. You heard about the big folks. Oh yeah, Doug.
Jeff, I'm really glad that the library added lawn games. I'd love to play giant Jenga.
Come on in and check it out, though.
I think that serves.
And we'll
a big
circulate,
need, so
we'll actually circulate those to the other libraries within the Winnebago system. They're not only for Oshkosh
okay.
use, so.
Winnebago County gets some Zoom meetings?
They
And
want,
Winnie County can participate. Winnebago started a collection as well that
Right,
rotates
you're
through
a
smaller
copycat.
libraries.
That's tremendous.
So yes, that was a very popular service. Amro, did you utilize them?
Yes, we did a lot in the last couple of years. There's a silhouette machine that they want us to use. Just different outdoor games. We did it for part of our summer reading program. Request them, they send them, we use them, we send them back.
Yeah, these are things Winnebago owns and Winnebago keeps, so it doesn't take any money or space away from the really small communities. You know, giant Jenga, if you have too many of those, where do you put the points?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, me?
Yeah,
All right.
go.
Well, the Winnebago County Library's goal being much smaller. Our goal for this whole past year was to be a destination, not just, obviously books is what we need for circulation, but we have a strong passion for programming. So not as high, your numbers were really high for summer, but we had a breakout summer as well. And not only with kids, what were our minds this summer was the teens and adults that participated. Which so much so that we are now looking at reformatting our summer next year to better accommodate the older generations that we have coming in. A part of that destination was we were able to get new carpeting, and even more so recently, we received a grant from the local thrift store that allowed us to purchase all brand new Melissa and Doug wooden toy sets So we have the kitchen, the doctor's office, the cafe, the grocery store, and the ice cream shop. And that has literally been bringing in people from Wapaka, Appleton, Fond du Lac. They flood in every day. So while we traditionally see back to school numbers bring the kids back to school, all of our homeschooling parents are coming and spending hours at the library. And with that, we've worked hard to make sure it's the most welcoming experience when they walk in. So not only do we have our Scentsy going, so we have a nice fragrant smell coming in, we have our music playing, our fireplace, our electric fireplace going. Not with the heat, just with the flame looking, because it's way too hot in there. And then we always have coffee brewing for our patrons. So we have a very welcoming atmosphere when we walk in, and the kids love it. I made a joke to the Winnebago News and they published it. I didn't think she was actually gonna quote me, right? So I think the parents like it better because they just sit back, relax with their coffee while the kids play. But along with the programming, what my very strong belief is that times are changing so much, and that while libraries are obviously about books and circulation, programming is what fuels that. Like Gretchen said, with the high numbers this summer, our circulation with that many people coming into the library to participate in our programs, they're walking out the door with 30, 40 picture books every time. So our circulation benefits when we have programming. Our programming, back to the Friends of the Library, I know one of you asked about the support from, we have a very active Friends group. They do bingo events throughout the summer, throughout the year. We do a big craft fair for fall. Dear Widows Weekend is huge for us. Their participation in all those events, they pay for 90% of our programming for the year. They give us $3,000 every summer to purchase summer reading program materials and prizes. So again, summer is really busy for us. Just to touch on, I know you guys were talking about some fun things we circulate. Over the last 2 years, we have started circulating a sewing machine, a stand mixer, one of those big fancy ones that go on the store on your counter at home, cake pans, cupcakes, and our favorite one, because we are such a big fishing town, is we circulate fishing lure kits. And that's a partnership with our local Critters. I'm sure you guys have heard of Critters and Wood Eyes. And the nice thing is if the kids lose the lures or the adults lose the lures, Critters just keeps replacing them for us. So that's a really special collection for us. And just one more thing I wanted to point out is this was our first year we did a seed library. So our Friends of the Library gave us $500 and we purchased flower seeds, vegetable seeds. We used our old card catalog to house them in, so it was really pretty setup. So patrons could come and take 10 packets, I think it was, 10 different packets. And the goal was to have a community table at about this time when all produce was coming up. We have had a full table of people bringing in produce and taking it. It was amazing. So we have a nice little setup. Lots of zucchini and jalapenos. Really random. But even this one man has a peach tree, so he's been bringing in fresh peaches straight. It is amazing. The kids just grab them off the table and eat them right there. It's like, all right, well, that works. So that's just a little bit of what Winnebago is doing. We're definitely a destination in our community. So I didn't even talk about book club, but you're all waiting for it, weren't you?
You'll have to go to the library to find out about it.
Yeah, we have a very successful adult book club. It's called Get Lit Book Club. And we travel to local restaurants and bars after we read a book. And yesterday was our biggest one yet. We had 33 adults show up. And there were so many new ones that the 15 of us that didn't show up, or 15 of them that didn't show up because they were out of town or for whatever reason, we would have had almost 50 people yesterday. Bring Me Back by B.A. Paris. Nobody liked it, so it was a fun conversation. So the library, or the Friends of the Library, wherever we go, we purchase hors d'oeuvres or food, and then everyone's responsible for their own drinks. And as I was telling everyone today, traditionally it was like an hour. We'd be somewhere from 5:30 to 6:30. I think it was 8:30 last night because we had so much conversation. So just something we pride ourselves on. Our book club is growing quite large, and it's something I look forward to every month.
And I think just to, I don't want to step on anyone's toes, but the other piece that I'm thinking and hoping that you guys are hearing is how important the libraries are for community building. I mean, you look at the tenor of conversation on whether it's the national scale and politics and all that stuff. I feel like libraries are really truly good at setting all that stuff aside and saying, you know what, first and foremost, we're neighbors and we're a community and we're here to help each other. And we don't have to worry about that other nonsense. We'll worry about that when it's time to worry about that. But just saying everyone's welcome here regardless of your background. And we want to help you. Our job is to help you achieve whatever it is you want to achieve, whether it's just being entertained or whether you want to start a small business or a big business. We're going to do everything we can to make those things happen.
All set. Definitely. Right, Julia?
I'm on. You know, I'm gonna just take off of her adult reading program and just tell you a little story. We have our adult program too for reading. And it is such a social event for people. I had one of our regular attendees at our book club, her husband passed away. And if you've gone through anything like that, there's such a lonely feeling afterward. Another woman in the book club realized that she was going through this, and she recalled her husband passing away and how she felt. She called this lady and would invite her out and call her and say, let's do this today. Let's do that today. They have become such good support units for each other. And they met through book club, and they'd never met before that, you know, and it was just so good to see that connection coming. We also do, it just reminds me of something else we have at Tot Time. And it's basically, we put out a lot of different kinds of toys for kids, and the parents come and we put out coffee, light refreshments. The adults can sit back and converse, and the kids just kind of play together. And it's a way for these younger parents, grandparents also, just a way to come together, mingle, talk about what's going on. And it's so good to see that you can kind of bringing people together and creating a community or a support group for people. The other thing I really wanted to talk about was, you know, I know you can read our little article in here about what we've been doing, what we want to do, but I just want to kind of point out, and maybe you've all seen these slips. You know, my slip when I check out is usually just a nice and a short one. You know, I take it home, read it, bring it back, get more. This is just one of them that some of our people check out. Here's one. And I can go on and on and on and on and on and on with these types of slips. This is what they're checking out.
Just one checkout.
Yeah, and we're kind of blown away. And you know, this is just from the last couple of weeks.
Should use that for garland.
I know. And when we have summer reading programs, everybody's sitting there going, "Oh, those are kind of short, right?" You have people that take out a lot longer lists, especially during the summer when you're taking out picture books. But on here, toward the bottom, it says how much you saved by using. Okay, gotta find one. I know there was one I looked at, it was over $100 that said that. It gave a total of what they saved by using the library. And I think that's a big part of it, especially, you know, in this economic time, when things are getting a little tight, just to remind people that we have books that you can check out for free, and it's going to save you. You know, and I think a lot of people that use this know that, you know, that their kids outgrow books, or you get tired of reading the same book over and over. So, you know, we're giving that option to come in and get a variety of books. One collection that we've developed is Wonder Books, and I should have brought one, and I didn't think of it until after I was already here. It's a book that reads you the story. And I know back in the day, we had books with cassettes that would read young kids' stories, and then there are the CD books. Well, this is a book that has a little contraption down in the corner of it. It's attached right to the book, and you just push the on button, and they will read you the story. They've come out with some that are musical that will sing you little songs as you turn the page. It's been a high circulating thing for us, and I think a lot of the other libraries have expanded that collection also. Can't keep them on the shelf. And since I put quite a bit of money into that collection through gifts and grants that we've had, just to get them on the shelf, and people are always, well, where are they, where are they? I get another order in, and they're gone, which is so nice to see, because the kids just come in and take them down, sit down, and just go through it themselves. So, they're well put together so far. So far, I don't know if anybody else has, but it's a good way. It's, the different items that we're bringing into the library to expose people to, or to just have them have an alternative of trying something without a big financial commitment of buying them themselves.
I just want to highlight, you've done an amazing job listening to all of this, so thank you for letting us share. But I think something that Julie mentioned that I just wanted to highlight is that libraries are expanding the formats that they are offering materials in, and they are not decreasing them, and that is a toll on everyone's operating budgets in addition to the revenue and wages and so on and so forth. Wonder books that she's highlighting that are so popular are between $50 and $80 per title. And I want users to be aware that is it is a worthy investment, because it is going more to people. But as in terms of ebooks and audiobooks, that is one of the growing circulation for all of our libraries. They are also between $50 and $120. Versus we have these agreements with publishers for traditional hard copy books. Libraries can get them at a discounted price. Publishers have turned the other direction with ebooks and the audiobooks, and they are extremely expensive for libraries, far more than for public, and they're also limited. So when we buy a book for Overdrive or for Libby, the libraries are allowed to have it for 26 checkouts or for 2 years, and then it disappears. When you buy an ebook through Amazon, it stays, you own it. You're not leasing it, it is yours.
You are leasing it, it's a license.
Okay, but it is.
You don't own it.
They don't
but it
take it
doesn't
away from you,
disappear.
I should say.
Yeah.
So, I just want to highlight that all these additional items that libraries are purchasing are for the community good, but I don't think the prices are known necessarily broadly, especially how much these new services can cost. Keep using them. I'm not saying don't use them, but
Right.
the county money is going
But
to.
we add, but we don't really take away. Right, so we add variety, we add new collections. We fund them when we can with grants or with friends funds, but when they become then part of the expectation of the community, they have to become part of the operating budget. We can't fund these things permanently with, as you probably well know, folks who give grants, they love to do startups or pilot projects. They typically don't want to sustain a project over the long haul. So these things become part of our ongoing expenses. Any questions? We appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
We've had a wonderful partnership with the county for decades. Your support has made possible this range of services, the quality of services, and the quality of our facilities as well, frankly. And it's been a strong partnership for so long, and we appreciate your attention today and hope that you'll be advocates for us and help spread that word of mouth as well.
The funding from the county is adequate for the budget for this year?
If the county exec and the county board support this request, this is a good request for us. This will help us. Yes.
I would go a step further for the Menasha Library. The request I feel like is fair, considering a good portion of our use is to Fox Crossing that doesn't have a library. And we do our best to serve it, but the county funding is actually a huge portion. It's about 1/3 of our budget. So it's, in some libraries, I can't speak for anyone in this particular room, but in like at the Appleton Library, like their county funding helped do extra things, where for us, we need it to function as a library. So it's a very important piece. We feel like if the budget goes through as requested, we're in good shape, but we certainly hope that it goes through as requested.
Have you found any decrease in circulation because of the bridge being out?
We've seen, it's really hard to tell because all of our circulation is way up from last year, because we were dealing with COVID. So, it's hard to put a finger on, you know, how much the bridges hurt us, but I believe it has. Certainly, we don't see quite as many people from the island coming over to the library, and it's partially because the bridge, you know, you lose that direct route, but also the traffic over on Taco Street just tangles up like crazy, and I think people are just avoiding going that way. So again, out of sight, out of mind. If no one drives by the library, they may not stop. But hopefully we're coming to the end of that.
Well, and Nina's on it, on the main drag.
Yeah.
You guys aren't.
But I think a number of the libraries in that area, you're seeing increases possibly from Appleton being a temporary location as well. I don't know if they come that far down, but there's always dynamics, I guess I should say, is people, and that's what's wonderful about county funding. County funding allows an individual to choose what library they want to go to, and it is always free for them. And so if they decide it's too much of a hassle to go to Nashville for X, Y, or Z reason, they can go to another library, or they get a new job, and it doesn't make any difference to them. And we want library services to be as easy as possible for patrons.
Well, and I would say that, my husband and I have lived up here for about 35, 36 years. And it is one does not see the need. And I believe the library is addressing that need for people that you just don't see out on the street. Now, I don't think that's necessarily the case down in Oshkosh, but it's in our community, it's tough to see that need.
I'd like to commend each and every one of you because there's one thing you have in common, the word library. But after that, you're all different. And what you're doing, which really is obvious to me, is you're reaching out to your community and giving your specific community what they need. The rural is different than the urban. And it's one of those things where I think there's a lot of people, including Winnebago County, wish they could do the same type of thing, but we never get that. It's always one way of doing things in that sense. So keep up the good work, and just because I would guess you guys don't get together too often to talk, you know.
Every couple of months.
Yeah, that's for coffee and coffee cake. But you know, it's neat to see something that's working and actually addressing the needs because you're out there finding them. I think your biggest challenge though is promotion, and you've identified that. It's just how do you do it? You say Facebook, I'm not on Facebook.
We've gone back to even, because we are having that issue too, is how do you reach each individual age range? Because we have these people. I mean, outside of Facebook, we've been started in Instagram, but now we've gone back to a couple of school posters. We're hanging them up all around town for people that are not on social media. And it's working. It brings people in.
Social media is good and social media is bad.
Right.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Sorry.
I just want to make a kind of a personal appreciation either to Menashe or Nina, because I don't know where she goes. I have a girlfriend in her 50s who has Down syndrome, and she's in the library, I think every week, with stacks of books and videos. And Carol gets a lot of support. You know who got, well, okay, but thank you. She gets a lot of support from the libraries. I think they, you know, if there's a limited number of books, but she knows she's gonna be gone for a couple of, they take a few more. And she's always reading, and she's always showing me, you know, what she's reading, and, you know, I'll ask her about it, you know, is it a good story? It's a love story. Usually it's a love story. But I do appreciate the kind of care you give to people with special needs, especially.
Yeah, thank you all for being there.
You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Thanks for taking all the time to listen to us.
And these stories that you shared about how you use the library, we encourage you to share those with other people. help us with that word of mouth, because that really is, that kind of referral is far more powerful than one of our Facebook posts. Just to say, hey, have you thought you might be able to get that done at the library? One last example before I run off. We have free notary service that's available at Oshkosh Public Library anytime we're open. It is appointment based, but there's really no place else that people can go in the Oshkosh community to be able to depend on being able to get a document notarized. And as you may know, if you need something notarized, you usually need it right now. So, that's another way that we're trying to respond to the community, but you can help us tell our story.
Go to Chase Bank, they have notary publics there.
But do they only do it for their account
They
holder?
do it to anyone.
They
Okay,
do it for anyone, but it's within a specific time period.
well, that's good to know. I'll share that with our staff.
Nina too.
And Manisha.
We love to share resources and help patrons. Oh, we can't help you, but other businesses.
Thanks a bunch.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you next.
Take care.
Next, we got the UW Division Extension Program Educators Reports.
I would just like to draw your attention to the extension review, the monthly review that was included in the packet. And I see some, or if you grabbed a copy, with the intentionally anticipating the Winnebago group, we did not have a educator scheduled to present. We will continue that. But you'll see the good work that the folks are doing by reading that, our monthly update.
Next, we go on to the Administrator's Department report, Chris.
Yep, a couple of updates. The first item, the budget proposal update, that is not an item. I don't have the executive budget has not been released. So I don't have that to share with you and to discuss. We'll discuss that when it is. The facility updates, just want to let you know that Amy's been in kind of connection with our maintenance department or facilities. They have received bids for new carpet in these two meeting rooms. There's a couple of spots that they're looking at some temporary fixes because it's one of those things that while they've got some bids to approve, they still need to physically get the carpet and get the installer scheduled to be able to install that. But that will be, it'll be a nice thing because there are a couple of spots where there's some bubbling in the carpet that, just anybody who might not, see them or be aware might get a little bit of a tripping hazard. And who doesn't love that fresh new carpet smell in a meeting room while you're meeting. The other thing is I believe I shared, at least we've completed phase 1 or maybe even phase 2 of our inter-office moves. By having a couple of vacant staff, we had some opportunity to allow for some relocation on the condition that we were also going to do some purging. One of the things that is classic across extension offices is that we are incredibly frugal with resources. And so if anybody really needs a slide projector and slides from 1972, we may have them, or we actually may not, because those are the types of things that we're trying to recycle, repurpose, donate, or dispose of in an appropriate way. There's a lot of old materials, especially when you think about our ag industry and how much it's changed. Things from 1996 are in many cases no longer relevant, and they're not quite old enough to be like historical or archival quality. So they are being recycled appropriately, and any binders that can be reused or repurposed, we're doing that. So those are the types of things that we've been doing, and it's allowed staff who, in some cases, for example, Sarah Thompson inherited an office that it was like, boom, you're there, and she inherited all of her predecessor's stuff. And when you bring in your stuff and the predecessor stuff, because I don't want to say it's a tradition, it's also a burden of many extension offices, is that you follow someone and you inherit all of their stuff, even if there's a change in programming. And the time to take is really, it was actually, I think, a really good experience because it really allows for some cleaning and then identifying some other resources that we might need to be able to recycle. We found, like, we did find some gems. There are some gems that are being discovered that are like, hey, this is kind of cool. So we have that, and we are still also holding on to some things that may have some historical or archival quality in either, there's a couple places we have some historical societies and some other groups locally. We also have the extension archives are in the Steenbach Public Library or Steenbach Library on the UW-Madison campus. So there are county extension archives that are housed at the Steenbach Library. So if you're ever bored and are in Madison and want to go to the Steenbach Library, which is a little bit over down towards the Ag, the College of Ag and Life Sciences campus building, you can see, you can ask to request some of the archives, and the librarians will bring those out. You can see, Winnebago County, some of the past reports that may go back into the 20s, which kind of gives a historical, a unique historical perspective. An example of how it could be used, and it was kind of fun. I had an opportunity to take a tour as part of a professional development event. And at the time I was transitioning from a role in Dunn County, from Menominee, Wisconsin to Wood County. And so I'm like, can I see some archives from Wood County, maybe to get my, to get some information on the, some background or perspective. In 1920, one of the biggest accomplishments of the extension agent at the time was bringing in rail cars of dynamite for the farmers so that they could bust the stumps and with the swamps and the marshes that were in that southwestern corner, to be able to then reclaim that and claim that for farmland, which the farmland didn't take, but the cranberries did. So kind of some interesting history, and that was an extension-led event, meeting the needs of the community back in the day. Sadly, our staff, I don't know, sadly or gladly, our staff are no longer coordinating dynamite distribution. That would probably be brought up at the safety share. So that was just a cool event. Staff and other department updates. Madison Potrats joined us as our horticulture educator on August 29th. Being a new staff, she is actually attending or participating in an onboarding orientation session, and they only offer them quarterly. So we talked, and I'm like, yeah, you should go to that one. And then next month we'll have an opportunity for her to give an intro and an update with some of the things that she's been doing. She's already made connections with the master gardeners and to work with them to help them with their educational outreach, and has also been just doing the onboarding and the learning how to be, the stuff needed to be an employee of UW-Madison, and working with our staff on how to be a functioning member of the Winnebago County team as well.
Will she be connecting it all with the land and water?
I'm not going to say no, but that won't be her primary focus. So I won't say like no, never. There may be some impacts or some connections down the road. The connections with land and water, I'm going to transition then with your question, Kay. We are if depending on the budget, the executive budget and the passing of the budget, moving forward with and trying to get the regional crops educator in place. We've got a couple pieces and with some transitions in some other counties, some opportunity that it's looking more and more likely that we may have that early 2023, which would coincide with the budget year. That individual would have more connection with the land and water conservation in the respective counties that they work with, providing that some of those farmer education opportunities, whereas the land and water manages the programs, so they have all the state and federal grant funding to manage and coordinate the programs. extension contribution could be, or can be, or is not, would include, but is not limited to that farmer education or outreach, possibly holding, coordinating demonstration, on-site demonstrations, those types of things to give examples of, hey, look at these practices, and bringing the research, the university research piece to what are the benefits of enrolling in these programs and or utilizing some of these practices. So that's where the extension connection and partnership. And I know Chad and I have had a lot of conversations, and he's like, please let me know when things are moving forward, because we have some connection points, and there are some statewide connection points because Winnebago County does have a contract that includes those positions. Even though we haven't been able to get it filled, you're not going to, in the 2023 year, you're not paying for those contracted positions, but you're still getting connections to statewide resources. We are still referring individual producers to where appropriate, where we can, whereas other counties that have discontinued funding or eliminated those positions from their contracted services, they basically get a very polite, here's the email, or here is the website, you need to go there, we can't help you. So that's where you at least have a gateway towards that, to those additional statewide resources. Related to that, there's also, it's also looking very favorable pending budget approval. It was included in the proposed budget to have a regional dairy educator as well. And there's a possibility, or looking like that there would be a 4-county dairy educator, which is about the right size for the dairy educator. 2 to 3 counties is really good for the crops educator because of the large amount of cropland. The dairy educator, some of those facilities tend to be a little bit bigger. Dairy is not the primary agricultural category in Winnebago County, but it's also not, it's existent. I mean, it is still an important, and I apologize, I had it out, I had it in my head, the amount. I mean, it does have a multi-million-dollar fiscal and economic impact, that industry. Many of the crops are raised to support that, to support those dairy cattle. So those I'm looking forward to, are optimistic that early 2023 that those positions will be on board. That also, with that in mind, is led to some of our office rearranging spacing to make sure that we have a flex space for those individuals, whether they may be housed here or whether housed in another county, that they have a place to work and meet with clients while they're here and be part of the extension office space.
Can I interrupt for just
yes.
a moment? I want to say that this building is hugely utilized. I was surprised that I was not able to get a larger room until just a few days before our last DAC meeting. That's fabulous. And this is after hours. That's huge. Thank you.
Yeah, and that is something our office coordinates the scheduling, and and while Jody Bazayo is our primary coordinator, it does take Amy and Ashley all working together to manage the cancellations. We have had some groups that we've worked at individually, so not that have been no shows without canceling, and we're working through, basically given them their verbal warning, and if it happens one more time, they will be removed from the calendar and told to politely ask to find another meeting space, because the usage is increasing. So we do need to be able, these are some good spaces, they're public spaces, they're handicap accessible. Hopefully we can work through and get some additional technology to allow for these remote or hybrid type meetings. And for governmental and nonprofit partners, there is no charge. So there are not a lot of those meeting spaces or these types of meeting spaces that are available in our community. So it is nice that we're able to provide that resource. it does take a lot of time and effort from our office to be able to offer the high level of service. And we also recognize that we are also not IT, tech support, those types of things, so we can get people to a certain point. We've enhanced our communication to our meeting room users about we can and we can't do, so that individuals coming in know that there may be a point where we just have to stop and say sorry, you know, or if you're really unsure about whether your equipment or your device, that's we're not IT staff, you know, so you know we can connect you with our IT staff to see if those would work. So we're doing better proactive communication that way to reduce frustration by the meeting user groups. And that's been moved forward a lot with Jody. Jody's been able to dedicate a lot of time, especially, and I'll say all four of us. So Jody, Ashley, Amy, the front office team, and myself, we spent some time as we were starting to come out of the pandemic. It did give us a break to be able to say, okay, we now have a break. Are we able to change any of our wording, language, how we present things, our agreements, our systems, approach, things like that? We did implement some changes, which included more upfront communication. So that, you know, I don't want to say that, I mean, I keep going back that the pandemic was not really fun. And there still were some moments of learning and growth that we were able to take out of it, both, you know, from, you know, our organization, both the county organization and then our statewide organization.
You could partner with the library.
Well, and so that is one thing that there is always possibilities in. And one couple of things is, I mean, as you listen, like libraries are great partners. You know, they're utilizing a lot of their spaces as well. So it is sometimes a back and forth about, hey, who has space when? There are, with the computers and the public access computers, we haven't necessarily had as much here because there appears to be, because spaces like this are available. In other counties, there are some partnerships that can be, the words just get copied. We can take those, like in Outagamie County, there are a couple of programs in which the lifespan educator has worked with libraries to offer those and say, hey, on these days, can you reserve 1 or 2 computers so that if there are individuals that sign up that they can participate. There's a registration deadline. She can connect to the library and say, hey, there's 3 people, great. If not, if it's 0, then they can take that reservation off and let the walk-in public use and connect to those. And there's usually staff that will help them connect to that Zoom and things like that. So those types of partnerships are existing in area counties or in neighboring, and that is something replicated. That was the word. And they can be replicated here as well. And if, for example, if we have, if the health and well-being educator position is put into the budget and the budget's approved, those could be some examples of some additional, collaborations that could happen. So it's on my radar, and as is our staff radar. A lot of our other collaborations are with Sarah and Dana and the 4-H youth development program, connecting with the libraries, because again, it's a safe, stigma-free space that a lot of families and youth are already going to, and they're providing some connections to that out of school time in which they're provide a little bit of structure in a time that may not be as structured for some kids that need it. So,
are we currently advertising for Mandy's position or not?
no, we're not, because it's budget pending. So
It's budgeted for the rest of this year, though.
Pardon?
It is budgeted for the rest of this year.
It's budgeted for the rest of the year, but that is not I will not post for the position without a long-term.
We're basically gonna be out of that position probably till April or May of next year. The way the system works, I mean, it took us almost a year to get replace some people.
So Maybe. So the budget won't be approved, if it's included in the budget won't be approved until second Tuesday in November. I can and have, if it's looking like it's moving forward, I can start to have initial conversations with the Institute director and the HR to do our parts to start to get the request to fill. So that's some technical pieces of what needs to go in. Not knowing that we can't push that forward until the budget would be finally approved. And in my experience, I would not post the position until the second week of January. To post that into that November to December is very traditionally low pools, because individuals are not at that time, not necessarily just traditionally the job market, people aren't looking for change at that point in time. So I would say that doing the math, you're not totally wrong. I would be optimistic that maybe March could be practical, but if we get the right candidate that is working in another position and needs to give needs or wants to give notice, then you're right, Steve. It's probably looking at April is practical unless there is something that is unless there's a major change or revelation that I'm not aware of.
Just to bring Karen up to speed, that her position was actually taken out of the budget because Chris had to cut 4%. So right now we don't have her in the budget.
Okay.
John said he might put her back at 8/10. So,
Yeah.
We may not even have that position available next year. So everything that she did would just be gone.
Yeah, and I did submit a budget ad proposal for both a 1.0 position and a 0.8 position. So with the difference, and the difference is about $30,000 when you calculate the fringe total salary and fringes. And that's just a reminder, Karen, this Todd, and what you may have missed, Todd Wenzel is going to, his position is going to shift to the co-funded position. So his position would be stabilized and would be part of the co-funded flat fee of $44,900 along with Dana, and then the half of Mia's full-time position. The other co-funded shared positions would be those regional ag educators at the $44,900 divided by the number of counties. And those were factored into the budget at the anticipated percentages of the partner counties. So the health and well-being position would be a UW-Madison extension position that would be fully funded by the county, similar to Mandy's position prior to.
Did we know Mandy's position, that position was gonna be dropped possibly to this 0.8, because is that why we lost, because she could see the writing on the wall that she was about to
No,
do?
Mandy received a promotion within our organization. So she left for a promotion on her own accord within our organization. Now I'll give the cliff notes of so with all of the increases and the anticipated increases in all of the areas, we were our budget, we had a zero levy increase. So we had last year's budget number, and we in the past there has been some budget flexibility for the county to absorb any of the staffing or other benefits increases. That was not the case this year. So we were not held harmless. So we had to include those. There is a 2.8% increase in the flat fee. So it went from 43.6 to now 44.9. It's a modest increase, but it is an increase. And then there were other factors when Amy and I started working through the normal, our consumable supplies. We're basically those increases, we either had to look at leaving the amounts the same and decreasing the amounts we were able to purchase, or adjusting those line items to be able to purchase those items that we needed. Plus with the recent, I can't predict what the IRS mileage increase. After our contracted services, mileage is one of our most expensive categories because our educators, well, we do have, here, they're also out and about in the community. And so with the, was it 4.5 cents or 5 cents or 6 cents, something like that, that occurred at the end of January or in July, we're anticipating that that's going to carry over. So then all of that resulted in a net decrease. So the budget that was submitted was approximately $30,000 under the levy target. And that is not enough. That would barely hire an HWB educator. So that was not included in the budget. It was added as an add because I'm trying to remember my numbers in my head and I could look those up. The 1.0, the estimate, we have to estimate at the, I'm already thinking that my estimate's off because the University of Wisconsin is adjusting its, is going through their own salary survey. So I have to double check where my salary estimate, so you have to have your salary estimate, plus you have to take into the assumptions that that an incoming individual is going to take the full benefit package with the maximum university contributions. So that would be part of it. So the number could come in, I want to think it was 96 for full-time and 80 to 80, no, I said it was 30,000. And it was, because it's also the supplies that are associated, supplies and mileage that are also all associated. So the total increase was, it was just over, just around $100,000 is what it is for a position, an educator position. So, so that was the rationale to be able to do, because I am, it's very important to me that if we're going to hire a position, we want to make sure that they have the time and the resources to do it well, instead of to just do it kind of part way and not be able to have the impact in the work. A couple of things that are coming out of that, there are a couple of programs, or one particular program that's a new program with the Health and Wellbeing Institute, which is WECO, and that is a university evidence-based program that is only offered through, that is only available to our community members through extension staff, because those are the ones that are going to be trained facilitators for that program. So that's one of those offerings that they would be able to engage community members and community partners to be able to add to some resilience to the community. So there are some pieces of why there is a need for the program, and to do some of the pieces, maybe not every single thing that Mandy did. Her position description was a little split, so this is getting it back and focused to the health and well-being portion, which is really focused on community support around building community support around mental health, and building helping the community work and to build maybe more systems or policy change. So there is education, but also working to create communities that are supportive and resilient for those that need support and may need resilience. Mental health is one of those key areas. Also around nutrition, access, food security, access to food, partnering with our FoodWise team and doing things like that. So that's the vision. If that budget item is included in the budget. So apologize for taking a little bit more time, but since the questions were asked, I wanted to explain that, and then we'll also have the famous colored budget worksheet as soon as we're able to release that. The colored worksheet is a tool that Amy updates that turns the boring projected budget into all of our spending categories, so you can see where our cost centers are, which is helpful to see, okay, where are our contracted services, what are our purchased items, because those are all together in a bulk. And so we'll have that for you as soon as we're able. And if depending on when we get when the executive's budget is released, Amy and I will have to talk, if we have time, we may be able to put together a packet and get it out in the mail to you so that you can have that ahead of the budget. Or for those that do like your iPads, we can get a electronic copy for you to be able to view as well. Just the one last thing that I have is I just wanted to mention that as of September 1st, Catherine Nicelender is now my supervisor, and she is the assistant dean and for the South Zone. She previously was the assistant dean for the North Zone. So the areas, she was the point of contact. Just a little point of history and why I brought that up for some, and I saw Steve's face with recognition. Catherine's spent a good chunk of her extension career as the community development educator here in Winnebago County, and her office was right here. And when she accepted the position as the first Area 10 Extension Director, she kept her same office and was headquartered out of here. So she has some strong ties. She lives just north of the border in Allegheny County. So she's familiar with our communities, it's just a good, it's a good connection, she's a good sounding board for me, and she's good at what she does. So we're lucky to have her as a connection for our county and our area. Hopefully, usually she sometimes only comes in cases of emergency. So hopefully I can have her maybe pop in if her schedule allows on a good note, as just to say hi and introduce herself and maybe what her role is a little bit more. So happy to answer any questions, but that's all that I have that I wanted to share with you this morning.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Seeing no further questions, next we have announcing upcoming extension at the county board meeting for discussion. Do we want to announce the 4-H pizza sale, or?
We should do something.
I think it would be appreciated. I think the 4-H group would appreciate the announcement.
I'll do that, then I'll announce the 4-H pizza sale. It'll be, they're actually excellent pizzas. I buy 10 every year, well, twice a year, because they have the sale twice a year, so. I stock up.
Do they have a pamphlet that they send out, Steve?
They usually do have one in that packet that we get, otherwise, I'm sure they got them right at, you just go up to the window.
Okay.
By the extension, I'm sure they have them right there.
Okay. And how long does the sale go on?
You order, I think, is it October 10th? I think.
I don't remember. I
Is the
haven't seen
cutoff
the
date,
flyer
or you
yet.
pick them up like 2 or 3 weeks. They make them on a Friday and a Saturday morning.
They actually physically make a
They
4-H.
make them at the Expo Center.
Oh, wow.
So they'll start making them on, and there's literally probably a couple thousand pizzas they make. And it's all basically the kids and the parents. It's a great program.
Would it pay to have order forms at the board meeting?
Absolutely.
All right, breaking news regarding the pizza sale. So I apologize, I wasn't up to speed. So orders can be sent online. So there are online ordering available. There's a online ordering link that you can go to, and individuals that wish to do that can even pay online because it's a Square site. So you can go to winnebagoextension.wisc.edu. So our Winnebago extension, if you click on 4-H, their front piece is about pizza, the pizza making, and you can online order, and online orders close on November 11th. So there is some time to be able to do that. And anyone who might be listening, or anybody in this room, you can also call or stop by the extension office and talk to Ashley. So there are multiple ways. Plus if anyone knows a 4-H member or a 4-H family, you might be able to submit some orders through them as well. So, I mean, let me make a note and ask, Ashley to put together like a little postcard. So if anybody wants a postcard with all of the ways, or if there already is a flyer already that she can get her or Dana can get some too.
That would be super.
Yep.
Next, we got the Diversity Affairs Action or Resolution to dissolve the Diversity Affairs Commission as passed September 8th. And I'm gonna make a motion to table that until November. I plan on asking the county board for a position like this in the budget, and there's no way of knowing if they're gonna approve this. So if they approve it, they want to basically keep the diversity intact and move forward. If they don't approve this position, they don't want to. And like I told you last month, if this position isn't approved, I'll agree, we need to disband it. So that was my theory. I want to try to get this position. We basically need the majority of those present at the county board meeting at the budget, which is the end of October. So, I mean, we're not asking for a whole lengthy delay. It's less than a month. And if they don't approve this position, then it's saying they don't really approve having a diversity in the county. So they're basically, you're gonna have a decision at the end of the budget. So I would ask for the support to give it an extra month.
I second your motion.
Then we'll open up for discussion.
Thank you. I obviously am a part of this commission, as is Rachel. And we did go about coming up with a resolution. Since I have been on this commission, I would say that in the bylaws, it says that those people who are on it are supposed to have a little bit of an education. Well, I was excited to get on it, and I have to tell you that I really appreciate the work that everybody has done. It's not insignificant. I would also say that it is because we have not had the background of why it's dysfunctional at our level. It's totally dysfunctional. And I believe that it can be addressed in alternate ways. I went to the county website, and for today, there is a program on Feed the Body, Feed the Soul. I believe that's part of the diversity. Public meeting, need a committee on aging. That's another one. MindWorks class, another one. Memory Cafe, another one. Caregiver support group, another one. And these are already up on the county website. And interestingly enough, they're all on 9/15/22. That's happening today. And that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 events that are happening that our commission had no involvement in. None. So as far as those of us who have been on this commission since we joined the county board, it's been what's the right word to use? It's been useless. It's been useless. It's been frustrating. I have Mandy Dornfield's email that she sent out saying this needs to disband. I just heard this morning that she was ready to do this back in April. And it needs to go. I also received an email this morning that I believe that many of us received this morning about 2 members of the UW Extension, Education Extension and Agriculture Committee. We ask that you please vote to dissolve the Diversity Affairs Commission at the UW Education Extension and Agriculture Committee meeting tomorrow morning. And it says, thank you, Jennifer and Diane Kozer. I am so pleased with the people that I have met on this commission. They are precious, they are involved, they want to see people have the opportunity to talk out their issues. For me personally, I'm not convinced it's my job to fix it for everybody. And I certainly don't see how the commission can go about fixing it. Thank you.
I've got some real problems with the draft here to dissolve the commission. There are some of the wording that our committee, and it's the third graph from the end, oversight. They have failed to oversee the DAC. I totally disagree with that. We had a good set of bylaws and strategic plan. That even that we got a lot of help from the extension on that after we requested that. Corporation Council looked it over a couple of times. I know Steve has done a lot of work on that. The commission has failed itself, unfortunately. We cannot hold their hand while they're working. Probably some good minds on the commission, but some things they could have done, they could have gone on a public relations tour. Service clubs, you could have talked to them. I know the Noon Optimist in Oshkosh would have loved to have someone from the commission talk to them about what it is. Because I don't think there's a lot of people that know about it at all. You could have gone to UW Oshkosh. I'm sure you could have talked to the student senate. They would have got the ball rolling. I'm sure they could have set something up where there was where the commission could come, one or two people, maybe all of the members, to talk to the student body. And I know that would have been well attended. Excuse me, they could have also encouraged minorities to run for public office, because we have a big shortage of diversity, excuse me, on our government committees and elected officials. There's another problem I have too. Second paragraph from the bottom, the word dysfunctional. I think that's a little harsh. When I think of dysfunctional, I think of families. You know, dad's an alcoholic, mom runs around with other men. We don't feed the kids or bathe them right. We hit them a lot, you know. To me, that dysfunctional belongs in that type of group. We could have used the word flawed, even defective, or muddled, or unsettled. I think that would have been less harsh. So everybody's got their own opinion on this, but I cannot support this at all. Because if we dissolve this group, diversity has taken a step backwards in Winnebago County. Thank you for your time.
I would vote against just dissolving the Diversity Affairs Committee, but I have absolutely no doubt that it's going to be dissolved. I've heard in the last, I didn't count, 5 or 6 months, 5 months, maybe, 4 comments from diversity members. I've heard them right in my hearing. 4 comments from diversity commission members who discussed, made comments that made me realize that they may see discrimination. They don't understand systemic racism. Do not see systemic racism at all. This is Hispanic Awareness Month. All those things that Kay mentioned are being held today. It's not a single program that is about Hispanic culture. And I don't know if there is for the rest of the month, I'd be interested to see. You're saying no, there's not? Okay. I don't think, and the fact that you've got someone, and I'm assuming that's either the county executive or the chairman of the group, who would tell someone, you're not black enough to be on this committee, shows racism right there. I don't know who that, I can't remember who made comment on Zoom, but you've got someone in authority saying, you're not black enough. That's racism. I have a girlfriend from church who grew up in the Carolinas, lived for a while in Pittsburgh, has lived in Oshkosh about 10 years. She says, I was never called a nigger until I came to Oshkosh. I was never told to go back to Africa until I moved to Oshkosh. And my guess is her family, her ancestors have probably been in this country longer than mine have been. Because her families were probably brought over in the 1700s. I don't think I had family in the 1700s. Unless you're a person who's a member of the DAR, you probably have less time in this country, historically, generationally, than the black members of the community. There was a lot of throwdown when this came up several months ago, when we had that little girl from Lourdes who came and spoke to the board last spring, I think, who was too young to vote. And I don't even know if she was old enough to vote because she wasn't even a junior, I believe. And she took the guts to come and talk to us. And one county board supervisor said, her kids will be kids. Children and kids aren't born making fun of other children because of either disabilities or race or any other thing that sets you apart. They learned it somewhere. So they learned it in this community. Maybe they learned it at home, but someplace in this community, someplace in this county, that baby grew up learning to discriminate. And then therefore they can say, well, kids will be kids. I have no doubt this is going to fail. No doubt. We're going to lose the diversity commission because the people who are on it, I don't think understand systemic racism. They may see discrimination. I don't think they understand systemic racism. And when you hear 4 comments in your hearing that say to you, I'm a white person and people are discriminating against me, it's not systemic. Someone may say something bad to you, and it doesn't mean it's because you're white. And it's certainly not systemic. I'm going to vote against this defunding it or dissolving it. I have no doubt it's going to dissolve. I have no doubt.
The motion I made the table it would be to,
Yes, but I know, and maybe I'm not speaking to your comment about timing, and I'm sorry about that.
well, they would come back to us
But I
in
am
November.
going to vote against dissolving it. I agree to your comment. Let's put it off for another month. There's a target on this commission and on the back of this commission, and it's going to get hit.
And I agree with you. I think the new county exec did everything in his power to get this commission dissolved. He took Supervisor Norton off the commission. He took myself off the commission. Basically, the 2 other ones resigned. She sent a poll out trying to set up a meeting. They wouldn't respond to her.
Yeah.
The chairwoman could not get a response to set up a time. She figured they didn't respect her, so she resigned. They've done everything they
I
can
had someone
to
who came to me and
basically.
said, there is a member of QAnon on that diversity committee. And I said, do you have proof of this? And she said, no, I'm hearing this secondhand. But she says, I'm telling you, you've got people from QAnon supporters who are on this diversity commission.
What is QAnon, please, Karen?
Seriously?
Yeah, seriously, yes.
Well, it's a racist group in this country of promoting conspiracy theories, which are quite seductive, but they're also destructive. And QAnon members were some of the biggest groups of those who were a part of the January 6th attack on the Capitol.
One other thing I was gonna say, Mike and I gave the county exec numerous good qualified candidates that wanted to be on the diversity committee, and not one of them, not one, did he appoint.
You know,
And we have 2 openings, but yet he would not appoint one of them to that diversity committee.
I
Why?
have, since he was elected 2 years ago, I have, when people say, how do you get along? I said, he swears he wants to be a person who is not political, is not one-sided, who wants to work across the board with everybody. I said, I'm giving him that shot. I want to believe that's what he believes. I'm having a hard time with that right about now. I really am. I wanted to believe that he was one who wanted to work for bringing both sides of the political issue together. And knowing that commission languished for months and months and months and months, not being fully appointed. And knowing that there were people who were willing to serve on that group, and he wouldn't appoint them.
Well, one had a degree from Marquette in law.
Yeah.
What better candidate can you get? I mean, we were writing bylaws in the strategic plan. She's got a degree from Marquette in law and would not appoint her to the commission.
And someone told me that his commenter was, or comment was to someone who had been previously on the commission. I have something else in mind for her.
Yeah.
It's
Years later, it's never happened.
never happened. It's never happened. I'm disappointed.
I believe that we have lost over the course of the last 60, 70 years, history of racism. I am from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. That is where I was born, and I have heard ugly things said about diverse communities. I would also say that my husband was involved in the segregation of his high school as a junior. I believe that there has been a great deal of history lost over that 70 years. I would also say that as I moved into this community, I did not see diversity, and that was 35 years ago. The diversity that I saw was based on your religion. Are you Catholic? Are you Lutheran? Are you Methodist? I would say that this community has never had to deal with anything like this. And there are any number of people in our world, because of that last 70 years, who are much more inclusive than many people believe. I would tell you, Karen, that I have had a Black man live in my house. I would tell you that he looked at me and said, I have to get a haircut because of my nappy head. And the two of us discussed this, and I got to find out what a nappy head was. And he used that term, not me. And I said, feel my hair. And he was able to find out how baby fine my hair is. And there was a communication going on. It was not done at any level other than in my house. And for anyone to say that I am not diverse enough is an insult. How many people have you had who are discolored or not white-skinned live in your house? I've had somebody live in my house who was an absolutely charming young man, and he was from the South. And I love him dearly, and I am still in communication with him. And he's living back south again. So if I am being offensive, y'all forgive me. I have lived it.
Any more discussion? We'll be voting on postponing it to the November meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried 5-0. We're postponing it, tabling it till our November meeting.
Was Karen an A or an A?
Oh, you.
I said an A.
4-1. Next, we go on to the scholarship task force updates.
Because my child is 4, I'm in 4, take 42 now. They have seen specialists, I have not gotten that group together yet. And I do see my, the specialist a week from, we're seeing again on Tuesday. I take it off, but they told me I can't teach the class 2 weeks. So when I get my wrist back and I'm healed, we will get this task force up and running.
Should we just leave it on there till,
Yes,
and we'll check back
I
next
mean,
week?
I keep thinking like, okay, in 2 days, I should have voice back. And it's better, but it's not.
Then we go to comments from the committee members.
Can I say something about that? I heard, and again, this is discussion that I hear, that there is $33 million, and if I'm not mistaken, it was at the last extension meeting that we had. There's $33 million from the ARPA fund.
That's correct.
And there was consideration that to me, it's a significant amount of money might be put into that fund so that we could have scholarships ongoing. I just wanted to bring that forward, and I think that, wow, that would be a really fine way of having scholarships come forward.
That would be great. Is the ARPA fund limited to things that were impacted by COVID?
I'm on the ARPA team, the committee for ARPA. We have had no meetings yet. I have not heard anything about any of that. The last meeting that they had, they said that we could take the funds and put it in the general fund, so at least we have them. But as far as the disbursement goes, I have not heard.
Now, and this was just a general comment.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of general, there's fire trucks being bought and everything else that there is no validity to it.
But weren't the ARPA funds supposed to do something for those places, things, entities that were impacted by COVID?
And
if
it's
that's
a
the
broad
case,
brush that it's
it's a
painted.
broad-
That's
Not
what come
sure-
there
Not
saying,
really sure, that would be great to have extra money for scholarships, but I'm not sure that we can claim that as
Lost
something that's
revenue.
impacted by COVID.
it's claimed as lost revenue, so therefore it can go right into the general fund. But the committee, from what I feel so far, has taken the position, no, it's not gonna go in a general fund. You could put it there maybe.
Yeah.
But it has to be designated for something to be used in some form. And at this point, I've heard that some towns have requested about fire trucks. I'm getting emails about young kids, 2 different agencies that say that they like to get money for their child care and all that kind of stuff. So it's gonna be quite the Donnybrook when the things come in, because everybody wants to get a piece of the action. I think at our next board meeting, if I remember looking at the minutes right, the supervisor meeting, the executive is gonna give us an update on ARPA funds, and I'll be interested to see, because I don't know of any updates on it, so I'll hear it at the same time you do, and that'd be the 3rd Tuesday of next month. No, next Tuesday, pardon me. That's on the agenda for next Tuesday.
That's right.
The ARPA meeting has been canceled once already due to the budget. So now supposedly we're gonna come in, and I have no idea which way it's gonna go. I think the committee's finally gotten filled out. We have a full committee now. So you'll hear about it when we hear about it, I guess.
Next, we got comments from the committee members.
Yes, I would like to just say one more thing. I get fairly passionate about things I say, and it tends to flow right outside of my mouth without much forethought. When I think in terms of diversity, it is not diversity in the sense of discolored. It is in the sense of us having differences not only in our race, in our religion, but also in my day-to-day walk and anyone else's day-to-day walk. That is what I think of as diversity. I am not about to say, Steve, that I walk in your shoes a mile. It doesn't happen. And I don't believe that anyone else can say that they walk a mile in my shoes. So thank you for letting me say that.
Any other comments? Hearing none. The next meeting would be October 20th of 2022. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
All in favor?
I.
All right, and that's the 20th, Steve?
That is the 20th.
Thank you, sir.
We are adjourned. I think everybody's got good intentions.
Let me know where that.
You know, we just have to
We're still live, just want to let everyone know.